And, in true teenager fashion, she loves to communicate by yelling at me from the top of the steps, right? And so I just so clearly remember in my mind her, Mom, I don't need ibuprofen. This is amazing.
Wow.
And month over month, it was just, Mom, this is better. Mom,
She
that
knew,
is better.
she could see a noticeable difference.
She
in
could see
everything.
a huge noticeable difference.
Coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time. Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
Hello, Fremont. You're listening to episode number 47 of the Fremont Podcast. And I'm actually back at Forest and Flower. So we did an episode a couple weeks ago with Sway, who's the owner of Forest and Flower. And she's actually right now making coffee for someone. I can see her. But we're back here with someone else who lives in the community, Gita. And she and I met, a couple weeks ago. We talked in Mission Coffee down the street here. And she has a very interesting business that she started. Gita, welcome to the Fremont Podcast.
Thanks, Ricky. It's nice to be here.
So your business, this is very interesting because this is not a normal conversation for people, at least not normal conversation between men and women specifically. I think listeners might find this intriguing, but tell me a little bit about what your business is, and then what's the story behind you starting your business?
Yes, and actually you would be surprised how many men love the idea because they want to help their loved ones.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, I'm going to let you tell the story, but I'm excited to share this with my wife because I think it's something that she will benefit from greatly. So tell us about your business. Yeah.
So I started Nishi, and we make healthy treats for women to have better periods. So they're all natural cakes, muffins, mix-ins that you can put in your smoothie, your chia pudding, your pancakes, whatever. And it's a treat you eat once a day, and it supports your hormonal balance naturally. So there are quite a few things in nuts and seeds and just food that has a healing property without relying on medication.
Okay. So this is interesting because there's probably other things out there that are meant to help women in their periods, right?
Yep.
And why is it that you resorted to looking for creating something like this versus maybe something that maybe more generally, sought for or recommended for helping women in their periods?
Yeah, that's a great question. Personally for me, when I was a child, I struggled with very heavy, very painful periods, and my mom's only option back then was birth control, right? Just to manage the PMS. And it left me feeling terrible. I had persistent headaches, stomach aches, basically from that point on until I was an adult when I stopped taking it. And I realized that was the cause. And as I saw my older daughter going through the same struggles, I didn't want that for her. And I've always been, I love to be in the kitchen. I love to cook, play around. And I've always been very in tune with what the kids eat, how they react. And so that was really where this was born.
That's great. I love that. What was that moment like, or what was those conversations like with your daughter at the time when you were trying to navigate what this would look like for her? I mean, is this something that she welcomed very quickly and easily, or was this something that maybe was you had to convince her? I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, for her, it was either hugging your bottle of ibuprofen or I get to eat a gooey chocolate cake every day. there was no question in her mind. And, in true teenager fashion, she loves to communicate by yelling at me from the top of the steps, right? And so I just so clearly remember in my mind her, Mom, I don't need ibuprofen. This is amazing.
Wow.
And month over month, it was just, Mom, this is better. Mom, that is better.
She could see a noticeable difference.
She could see a huge noticeable difference. And, she plays competitive basketball. So she's in tournaments all weekend long. And it got to a point very, very quickly where her period never got in her way. We had to leave at 8 in the morning, 6 in the morning, whatever it was, to head up to Oakland or Richmond. And she was ready to go. There was no complaints. There was no concern. And it got to a point where she would tell me, she's like, Mom, my periods never stand in my way anymore. And she tells, potential customers that at pop-up events all the time.
Wow.
And it's definitely a moment of pride, right?
Yeah,
like I did that, and I love that.
I mean, honestly, I don't have teenagers yet, so I've got a 10-year-old, almost a 10-year-old, and I've got a 3-month-old. But I long for the day because we were teenagers once, right?
Right.
So, and we know how teenagers kind of like shy away from like being connected to us in some settings. And maybe aren't as proud as of what we do as maybe we would like for them to be. But so I think that's got to be significant that your daughter is not just willing to try it, but is speaking to people about it. That's awesome.
Absolutely, it's amazing. Growing up in Indian family in Wisconsin, it was very hard. My mother always wanted us to shield the fact that we had our period. And back then, you're not going to hold your pad and walk down the hallway because everyone's going to make fun of you. And I never wanted that for my girls.
Yeah.
And I never wanted them to feel ashamed or, like they had to keep something private. And I love how open they are. I love that, they'll have these conversations with their friends. Anybody who asks Anjali, what does your mom do? She'll proudly tell them. So it's awesome.
That's great. So I got a question, and probably if people are listening to this, they might be actually thinking, like, what are your qualifications for doing this? Because is this your background? Is your background in like biomedical?
It's not.
Stuff?
No.
How'd you get here?
This is a passion more than it is a background. So when we were in New York City, I was working for an investment bank, and I almost quit my job to go to culinary school.
Okay.
And at the time that I was, this close to making that decision, I found out I was pregnant with my oldest.
Okay.
So that didn't happen, but it's always been sort of an area that I love, right? My mother, my grandmother, they always looked at healing in natural ways. Whatever ailment you had, right? Nothing serious.
Yeah.
There was always a natural way to go after that. And I think a lot of Indian families are like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's definitely sort of rooted in my culture, how I approach the kids and their health as well.
That's awesome. And how did you, this was just self-study that you did then in order to be able to get to this point? Was there any help that you had from your mom or from your family, or is there anything like that? Or was this pretty much like a separate endeavor that really you started off on your own with a
completely
blank slate?
Separate endeavor,
Okay.
blank slate. I have talked to quite a few doctors, pediatricians, OBGYNs, just to make sure that there was no concern.
Okay.
They all love the fact that the effects will go away if you stop, right? So there's no permanent change happening in your body.
Okay. That's good.
And we've done a lot of research around the ingredients, if there's any adverse effects. There's quite a few databases where these natural ingredients are studied. And there was nothing of concern.
That's awesome. That's great. So what does your business look like then? So you are, when did you start your business? And then what does it look like for you at this point? Do you have a brick and mortar shop, or do you have, what does your business look like?
So we started last year.
Okay.
It was really, a lot of testing through the pandemic. Once I noticed the two of us were feeling better, we enlisted a group of women, all ages, all ethnicities, just to know that it worked for them, right?
Okay.
And the exciting part was everybody had a tremendous response in their first cycle. So within the first month, huge change. Everyone was really excited.
How many people were in that test group?
15 people total.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it was great. And so then once the kids were back in school, I quit my job and decided this is what I want to do.
Wow.
It's a fantastic way to help people,
Yeah.
right? And just it's an area that I don't think people realize they can feel better in.
Wow.
Right?
That's cool.
So, yeah.
And so now, you're making this out of your home?
Yes, I have my CFO license,
Okay.
and the next
Explain
step.
what that is.
So a
'Cause
CFO
we did mention
license,
that, I think, with
yes.
Sway's
She started there as
podcast
well.
episode. Yeah. So what is that? What is that license?
So that's your cottage food license. So basically I took the manager certification. So whether that's in my home kitchen or commercial kitchen, I have the ability to run that, right? And the knowledge to do that. And so that's your cottage food license lets you ship within the state of California out of your home.
Okay.
The next level of that license is you can sell in stores. And then sort of the jump that I'm looking to make right now is you move to a commercial kitchen or some sort of commercial environment where you can then ship across the country.
We'll be right back with the rest of the conversation in just a moment. Here is a quick conversation that I had with a customer at Dale Hardware. Yeah, well, he's going to talk on that.
This is the taller one.
There you go. What's your name?
Desmond Brown.
Desmond Brown. How long have you lived in Fremont?
All my life, 63 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was born in Washington Hospital.
That's cool.
Just when they opened up.
We got a bunch of Washington Hospital babies here.
I guess so, yeah.
What part of Fremont do you live in?
Maury and Fremont Boulevard.
Okay.
Right there in the middle of town.
Yeah, very good. Do you, so you lived here your whole life. Where'd you go to high school?
Mission San Jose High School.
Okay.
That's when I lived with my parents. It was on the upper end of town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And what are some of the things that you've enjoyed about Fremont over the years?
It's a wonderful place to live. The weather's great. The people are great.
Yeah.
It's a safe community, and the city's clean.
Yeah.
And the whole bit. It's just no other better place to be.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. What kind of work do you do?
I am a handyman.
That's great. How long have you been a customer at Dale?
45 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
pretty
cool. Do you how often do you find yourself in here?
Every day.
So everyone knows you, I guess.
Oh, everybody does know. In fact, I built half this store.
Are you serious?
Yes. I built the electrical department, the lumber department, the plumbing department.
Did you do that as a contractor or just as...
No, they subcontracted me out. And
Okay.
They had something absolutely custom built to their specs.
Okay.
And so we worked together and we designed it and I built it out.
That is
So,
super cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
When they did this big addition, I used to park my truck right there inside.
Did you... Oh,
Inside.
The addition when they
Yeah,
did
when this is all under construction, I would just pull
Wow.
my truck in.
Episode 35 I did with Ernie, who works here.
Yes.
And he's been here for 48 and a half years.
Yeah, he's been here a long time.
Yeah, and he was telling me about the addition, building on and all that stuff here as well.
It was a great investment. They
That's
did it right.
That's
you know.
really cool.
You can never have enough products.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks for taking the moment to talk with me, man. I appreciate
Okay.
it.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, Dale Hardware is such a great place for you to find the things that you need when you're working on home projects. It's also a great place to find advice and help to know exactly how to use the products that you're buying, to use the tools that you're using, and to know exactly what you're doing. Make sure you're doing the things the right way. And so Dale Hardware offers great customer service. And along with that, as you heard in this conversation, there are great events that are happening all the time at Dale Hardware, and there are really great events happening all around the community. If you haven't noticed, the housing market is all over the place. Whether you own a home or you are interested in buying a home, it's important that you have the right person working with you to help you make your dream actually a reality. Well, I don't think that there's anyone better in Fremont or in the Fremont area than Petrocelli Homes. Petrocelli Homes is a local family-owned business that has been in the housing industry for many years. Beginning as a home builder, John and Jennifer Petrocelli know the ins and outs of the homes in this area like no one else. If you're looking for somebody who will treat you like family and will help you find some stability in this crazy housing market, I can't suggest anyone better than Petrocelli Homes on Niles Boulevard. Now, back to our episode. So, Gita, when did you move to Fremont, to California?
So we moved to California, let's see, I think it was 2009.
Okay.
And we were actually in Redwood City and looking around and trying to find, that place that felt like home. And Fremont felt the most like the Midwest.
Okay.
Whereas I grew up in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So
And me
we have
too.
that connection.
Yeah, we were both from Wisconsin. Were you born in Wisconsin?
I was, in Madison.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And, we were born within 30 miles of each other,
Yes.
I think. So that's pretty
Yes.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was the first place we felt more of that sense of community. You have a real yard, your kids can run around, and it just, it gave us that quaint feel.
Yeah. So what brought you to the Bay Area? Was it work? What kind of work do you do?
It was actually my husband's job,
Okay.
but we always had the intention of moving out here.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
growing up and raising kids in Manhattan when you come from Wisconsin just didn't seem to make sense. You know, going to Central Park was a field trip.
Right. Right.
So
yeah.
we always had the intention of moving out here, and honestly, quite selfishly, we thought this was one of those places that the kids would come back to.
Okay.
After they grew up, you know, wanted to
I like
raise their
that.
family. We
Yeah.
thought this would be a good place.
So how long have you lived in Fremont specifically then?
We have been in Fremont 10 years now, 10,
Okay.
11 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the Bay Area in general?
That was in 2009.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Awesome. So has Fremont delivered for you? I mean, your kids aren't grown and left the house yet, right?
No, the kids are still in school.
Still in school.
Doing well.
But
Yeah,
so far, has it delivered? Has it been a place that you feel is a good home for your family?
Definitely.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite places around the city?
I think just having access to Mission Peak or little boutiques like this, Mission Coffee. My younger two are down the street at St. Joseph's. You know, the older one is in high school. There's just, it's very, there's great options everywhere.
Okay. So is Mission San Jose your district? Is that where you live then? You live close
Irvington.
by? Irvington. Okay. Okay. Very good. Awesome. What has your reception been like from people in California? Like those are the people that you can ship to now, right?
Correct.
So it's probably a great test case to see how Californians
Yeah,
respond,
yeah.
right? What's that been like? I mean, have you had good response from people?
It's been awesome. You know, a lot of the in-person events that I do, I consistently get the feedback of, I had no idea this was an option.
Wow.
Right? I had no idea that I had something other than medication that I could leverage to make me feel better. And people definitely have a lot of questions. I think the most interesting moments have been the in-person deliveries versus
Uh-huh.
the shipments
Uh-huh.
because they're so excited to start, but they have so many questions. And so
Yeah.
it's just so great to make that connection. And yeah, you know, I would say the most unique customer was my friend owns an eye clinic in Fremont, Tri-City Optometry, and she
Okay.
has a trunk show.
Okay.
So she said, why don't you come out and have a booth?
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself, eyeglasses, period cakes, you know, does this really make sense?
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. I had a husband come up to me, and, you know, he's sort of looking at me, that initial awkward 10 seconds. And he's like, oh, you know, tell me more about your product, about Nishi. My wife has really difficult periods. So I told him about the business, gave him, you know, the messaging to take back to her, an info card and a sample. And the next day she was like, this is fantastic. Your cakes are phenomenal. I'm so excited to see what this can do. And so she's been a customer of mine for quite a while now and has told all her friends who
Oh
are
my
also
goodness.
now
Wow.
repeat customers. So it's been so great.
That is cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
And you said you were doing pop-ups then, like you did it at this
Yes.
optometrist.
We've done,
optometrist.
you know, pop-ups like Fremont Better Block, business openings, you know, trunk shows, that's markets, you know, whatever.
I'm just imagining the people that are like maybe seeing your pop-up from a distance and they're like, oh, baked goods, I'm going to go over there and check it out. And then showing up and finding out that maybe it wasn't exactly what people...
Yes.
Yeah,
I
have you
have
had...
a couple little boys come over. I'm like, it's okay. You can eat it.
So-
like,
so-
my husband eats them all the time.
That's what I was wondering. Like, so,
Yes.
like, let's just say I mistake like a normal cake or a normal brownie for yours,
Right.
or you know whatever. If I eat this, like, what's it gonna do to me?
It will do nothing to you.
Okay. Because the idea is that you said it kind of balances the hormones, right? Is that right? Okay.
So if taken every day, yes, it will help balance your hormones. So let's say your body is not making enough progesterone. There are things in there that have been shown to help trigger that, so you produce more. If you have too much estrogen, there are minerals in there that can help rid that from your body, and they just support that overall balance.
Okay. Wow, that is so cool. So for boys, for men, whatever, it would just be a
It's a
great
treat.
cake.
Yeah.
So I know you said this at the beginning, but repeat again. What are the different forms of like what you have cakes? What other things
Yes.
do you make?
I don't think I got into that actually. So
Okay,
we
yeah.
have
So
the key product is it's a mini chocolate cake, very fudgy. Everything is vegan, gluten free.
Okay.
The cakes are gluten free.
Well, you're hitting everything. That's awesome. Like you
all natural,
you nailed
fresh
it all.
made,
Yeah.
and it's really about the ratios. So the mini chocolate cake is is where I suggest everybody starts.
Okay.
If people have allergies or any sort of dietary restrictions, we have a vanilla and a cocoa mix-in.
Okay.
So based on your preference, right, you can start there or
The
add
mix
that in
in is
later.
for like putting it
That's
into
for smoothies.
Okay.
That's for chia pudding,
Okay.
single serve pancakes, oatmeal, those
Okay.
sorts of things. And then we have banana nut muffins,
Okay.
which can, once you've reached that happy period spot, which can take 2 to 3 cycles, you can add in the muffins and some
Okay.
of the other things for variety.
Oh, that is very cool. Wow. This is amazing. Like I mean, I'm with everybody else. I didn't even know something like this existed. and it's funny too, because I think when we first met, you and I first started our conversation through Instagram.
Right.
And you were telling me what it was. I was like, okay, this is really weird but really cool. This is like, very fascinating. So and so like what, I mean, I can imagine what your dream is, but like when you think about like where you want to go with this, what you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anybody else that you know of in the United States or anywhere else that you know of that's doing what you're doing? I mean, is there another product exists like this?
So there are quite a few products that are, a vitamin,
Okay.
A powder additive
Yeah.
to your water, different packaged things that will do that can offer similar benefits.
Yeah.
There's no one that offers a fresh baked good that will do that. So, a lot of seed cycling is a great example. There's
Okay.
companies that do seed cycling, but it doesn't taste very good.
Okay.
And so you're spending a lot of time covering it up in, say, smoothies or other things.
Yeah.
Whereas nobody offers a little tiny cake that you can grab. And the most interesting part of that is, I knew people were going to see the benefits and love it,
Yeah.
just based off the feedback that I've gotten
Yeah.
from all of my customers. But there is almost a guilt-free aspect for a lot of women. I've had a rough day at work. I want to come home and have my cake, and that's my self-care. That's my
Yeah.
me time.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that.
Yeah,
So I
that's
love that
awesome.
I can do all of that for
Yeah.
someone.
So I'm looking at you, and I'm like, I obviously know that you feel a sense of satisfaction that you're helping people out. What does that look like? I mean, do you feel like when you started this and had your daughter in mind, and now you've seen it helping people, I mean, is the satisfaction more than you thought it would be? Or do you find, I'm sure with every small business and every entrepreneur, there's times where you're exhausted and you're just like, do I
Right.
have to keep doing this? But is there a place where you realize, man, this is actually a bigger and better thing than I even imagined it would be? Is that how's that been for you?
There is no question. I mean, every time I get that feedback, it's so heartwarming.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to hear. I think for me, because there's so much education involved and it's such a personal product, most women are just told, no matter what you feel like, just deal with it.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
It happens. You
Yeah.
just deal with it. And breaking that stigma or that barrier is really quite a bit of education involved. So there's a lot of interesting conversations, and I think the challenge for us is these in-person events, and those conversations are key. How do you translate that over to messaging when you're not there in person,
Right.
whether it's social media
Right.
ads or newsletters or whatnot? So that's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
But I think, we're asking about where do I see this going? Short term, it's shipping, it's testing out this messaging, right?
Yeah.
Getting it all over the country. Long term, I would love to be able to turn this into, say, a capsule or something and help
Yeah.
women in third world countries who,
That'd be great.
they don't have access to running water, they don't
Yeah.
have access to sanitary products. And if you can take somebody's period down from 7, 8, 9
yeah.
days to 2 or 3,
Yeah.
that gets them back to school
Oh, yeah.
quicker. It gets them back to work quicker. They can provide for their families, for their community. And I know that's a lofty goal, but definitely something that would
Totally,
be
yeah.
amazing to
Yeah.
be able to
Well,
do.
I mean, I just, I think I've shared it before on a previous, at least I alluded to it on another episode, but I was in Africa in March. So I was in the Central African Republic for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it's the poorest country in the world, at least based on last year's, evaluation. And I was in jungle, remote villages, places where people are, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you have little kids, 4 or 5 years old, that are traveling miles by foot to go get water out of the river and bringing it back, and they're spending all day just trying to prepare a meal or to try to, it's phenomenal. I know that's not the only country in the world. There's obviously parts of India that are similar. There's other parts of even I guess in America
countries.
you probably find very impoverished areas as well. But I was working specifically with with an orphanage in a remote village, and the orphanage was primarily for girls who were basically their families had been killed in rebel warfare, and so this orphanage was there to help care for these children who'd lost their parents, and in the Central African Republic, basically women, for the most part, girls have one main role, and that's to help do stuff around the house. They don't. Many of them don't have the option of going on and going to college or doing something bigger and better. But it was just I'm saying all that not to carry on with my story, but I think just the very small things, helping deal with natural solutions that we have readily available to us in our country, go a long way. I gave them a cordless drill. I gave them a cordless drill, and it was like I could have given them the world, because it was like they had not been able to, I left it there for them. But something like this, like you were saying, being able to get a capsule or something like that into the hands of these women or these girls, it would just change so much of the misery that they experience in the life that they are inevitably having to live, So I think that's phenomenal. I think that's a great vision for what you're doing. That's really, really cool.
Thank you.
So if somebody wanted to find out more about what you're doing, or get access to what you're doing, where would they go? Like, how do they get a hold of you? How do they get a hold of your products?
So we have a website. It's www.shopnishi.com.
Spell Nishi,
Neeshi.
Okay, so Shop
Nishi. Or on Instagram, the handle is Shop Nishi.
Okay, so can I ask where the name comes from?
Yes, so Nishi, Anjali's my oldest daughter.
Okay.
She was really the inspiration for all this. Anisha is my middle daughter.
Oh, okay.
And
Very
Nishi
cool.
is her nickname. And when I was looking into names and options, and I just love the meaning. It's basically, not letting anything hold you back, especially your period.
That's great. I love that.
That said it all.
That's awesome. Wow. So shopnishi.com. It's also on Instagram. You can find you there as well.
Yes.
How close are you to being able to get into your commercial kitchen so you can start selling in other parts of the country?
So I have a few options. There's a typical commercial kitchen route that we can go, and I've toured a bunch of places, and I have some options close by. But I would actually love to help a local business.
Okay.
And so if there is a business that, let's say, shut down 1 or 2 days a week and they're looking for extra rental help, I would love to then come in and help them, and at the same time just apply for my license at that location, and hopefully we can find that option.
You and I have talked about this before, because I was trying to help you get in the door in another location.
Yes.
But I just thought of somebody that I know that has a kitchen, and they're shut down a couple days a week. So
well, that
I
might
need
work
to talk
perfectly.
to you about that. So I'm not going to say it on here in case it doesn't go through, but I
Yes.
think there might be somebody that I know that could help you. So
Awesome.
that's very cool. Well, Gita, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I'm excited. I was just thinking about this today when I was thinking about this interview. I was just thinking about the Silicon Valley, and the Bay Area is known for its technology, the world of technology that people take advantage of all over the world. One of the things that I love about the people that I've interviewed on the podcast is that there's these very human needs that are being met, or these very human elements to just life in general, that people are not afraid to step out and say, I'm going to try this.
Yep.
Even in the shadow, of the Silicon Valley, we're all, there's so many other things that are happening around us, but there's people like you that are making a difference in a very meaningful places in the lives of the people around them. So I think it's awesome. I think
it's exciting.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Well, thank you for being on the podcast, and I'm excited to hear how your business grows and how you get to help change people's lives.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Fremont Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, leave a kind review so that others can find the podcast. To stay connected with us, you can find links to our social media and other content at thefremontpodcast.com. This episode was hosted and produced by Ricky B. Andrew Cavett is the editor. Music is provided through soundstripe.com. I'm Gary Williams. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
This is Muggins Media.